What's up, everybody? It's FYGP, and today we're going to take a look at what Donald Trump is also doing and how he is also a tool of the New World Order, even though some things are being done differently right now, such as with US aid and with cutting that off and ending the war in Ukraine, which are big things, make no mistake, but still the technocrats, such as the people behind Musk, Ellison, Thiel, and so on, those are the ones running things, and there's no doubt that the agendas are quite similar, if not roughly the same. I think depopulation is set in stone. That is not going anywhere anytime soon. I think that with the rise of Trump and these technocrats, you will have sort of a cyberpunk future, like in the video game Cyberpunk 2077. And I think that game is prophetic in many of its predictions for the future. So people being hooked up to, of course, I mean, it's an old trope. I mean, Blade Runner and all of those great movies had similar things in them, but it's quite prophetic, and I think that is sort of the future that we're steering towards, especially now with the Trump administration. And I think what it's all leading to is basically technocracy. And there was a movement in the 1930s called Technocracy Inc., and they proposed a so-called tech-native America. It was all, science fiction, basically, but this would be the map of the technate of America, of United States, Canada, Mexico, all the Central American countries, Venezuela, and parts of Colombia and Greenland, of course. I mean, and this technocracy movement, its leading proponent being Howard Scott, and founded in 1933, the movement was ideologically somewhat diverse and fractious, but Scott's vision was fueled by the Great Depression and the crisis of capitalism, quack economics, post First World War isolationism, and an infatuation with fascist form and ritual. So that sounds quite similar, actually, with what is happening right now. And could we see a Technocracy Inc. 2.0 coming in near future? But this time, actually, it's a long-term plan to implement this, and I believe that many global elites would prefer such a system. So let's take a look. At the core of its ideology was the rejection of the price system underlying the global economy, in which money as a medium of exchange determines the value of goods and services, and financial considerations are fundamental to all economic decision-making. Citing the Depression as Exhibit A, movement adherents viewed this system as inherently unsustainable and predicted a total system collapse no later than 1940. So yeah, this is also something. It's not money that is going to be valued, it's going to be the energy required to produce it. Of course, with cryptocurrencies, they have to be run, by giant data centers, for which you need lots of resources. So that equates in similar ways. I think money is largely going to become virtual. And I believe it's entirely possible that FedCoin one day gets introduced, and that the US dollar moves from being the petrodollar towards the crypto dollar, essentially. I believe that is entirely in the realm of possibilities, and I think that's not out of, FedCoin would be a great thing for technocrats around the world. So this was This was the rationale, right, behind it. So similar to what I believe Trump and Musk believe. So yeah, as you can see, here's the references. But what about Donald Trump? At the same time as the media directed all attention to the assassination attempt of Donald Trump, the second revision of the UN's Pact for the Future was released. So it also makes you think about the legitimacy of those assassination attempts. I don't know what exactly went down there. The second one seemed quite sloppy. The first one seemed quite professional. But, not knowing much about it, I'm not going to speculate. Almost no one takes notice of the negotiations taking place. Trump also represents all the dangers that proposed new UN system intends to solve. In the pact's introduction, a warning is delivered that we are about to cross a dangerous tipping point that risks giving rise to a more uncertain and chaotic world. We are confronted by a growing range of catastrophic and existential risks. If we do not change course, we risk tipping irreversibly into the future of persistent crisis and breakdown. So, according to WEF advisor Yuval Noah Harari, the election of Donald Trump will be an inevitable accelerator to the dismantling of the old system. Trump becomes the face of the global crisis. This is per design. It can be assumed that Trump is the elite's Wreck-It Ralph with the task of ending the American empire's liberal world order. That's exactly what I was saying. And plunging it into chaos before the new international economic order is introduced. A move to replace Joe Biden with Kabbalah won't really change the game. Without a presidential candidate of Barack Obama's caliber, it will be difficult to stop Trump's road to victory. So that was written before the election. The assassination attempt has only strengthened his chances, in addition to being blessed with the grace of God and spare him from an untimely death. Trump also has support from the higher echelons of world power. Let's take a look at that article. So yeah, that's when it happened, right? So who are the funders of Donald Trump? Well, we have, for example, Peter Thiel, also that embraces the same transhumanist worldview and has made his fortune by supplying surveillance technologies to the CIA. Of course, Elon Musk with Starlink is a military defense contractor, essentially. And I feel like these people such as Thiel and Musk, they're trying to usurp the more established defense contractors such as Boeing, Lockheed Martin, and Raytheon, and they are trying to, make so for example, right, his company Palantir, which enjoyed early support from the CIA's venture capital fund QTEL, also a partner of WEF's Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution. So essentially, it's just a new management, but the CEOs, they stay the same, as I said, always. Musk and Thiel are both part of the PayPal Mafia, a group of individuals who were previously associated with the payment service PayPal as founders and employees to later start other influential technology companies such as Tesla, Palantir, YouTube, and LinkedIn. The actions of the two billionaires and their support for Trump can be said to be part of a larger strategic plan to reshape the world. They are tech optimists in the spirit of the futurist Herman Cain, right? And stand as a counterweight to the neo-Malthusian futurists in the Club of Rome. So essentially you have sort of the Thiels and Musks of the world, which follow sort of a futurist utopia vision, where transhumanist utopia, and that is one part of the elite. Of course, the cyberware and all of the expensive implants are going to be limited to the people who have the resources to buy them, as Yuval Noah Harari actually describes in his book Homo Deus. And then there's also the Neo-Malthusians, which are, of course, present in the Club of Rome, the WEF, and so on. And those are really the ones that want zero growth policies, that those are the ones that want to deindustrialize. Those are the ones that want you to eat the bugs and, and own nothing and be happy. But, of course, they overlap in many things. They, of course, also overlap, and it's really hard to see where the futurists, split apart from the Neo-Malthusians. The Neo-Malthusians, I really regard the ones being, the ones that want total poverty, ineptitude and poverty for the 99% of the world population, and want to radically depopulate the world. While I think the futurists have sort of a more moderate approach to that. I believe, of course, it's going to be a total AI surveillance grid, and essentially Starlink is going to be like the new what was it called, Skynet, right? It's going to be like Skynet. So obviously elements overlap in both agendas, but just keep in mind that none of them are for freedom or anything. I think those are the two opposing factions within the elite, sort of, to oversimplify it. So what Yuval Noah Harari does not mention is that in the background there are preparations for the system that is supposed to take over when the old one has been demolished. So yeah, that's also, I think that's probably the case with Donald Trump, right? It's a switch. It's a demolishing of the old system and a takeover of the new one, and the preparations have been set because Donald Trump now receives the support from certain oligarchs. The new international order envisioned by the trilateralist Zbigniew Brzezinski in the Grand Chessboard is woven into the pact of the future. But before that system is finally in place, we will likely experience a new global crisis. So what might that be? I think it might be a new pandemic, perhaps a war, another grand war. Of course, the downside to a war would be that nukes would destroy the surface of the Earth, and for now it doesn't seem that they have Mars or the Moon to escape to, so I don't think they're going to blow up the world quite now. But perhaps an economic crisis, perhaps a cyber attack. I mean, all of those scenarios are being foreshadowed in documents such as what was it called? Scenarios for the future by the COVID document. Remember when it predicted COVID before COVID happened? Forget the name of the document, but I'm sure some of you guys will remember. But I want to remind you that Trump is a friend. That Trump's friend Henry Kissinger wrote in his opinion article "The Change for a New World Order" in the New York Times in 2009. The ultimate challenge is to shape the common concerns of most countries and all major ones regarding the economic crisis, together with a common fear of jihadist terrorism, into a common strategy reinforced by the realization that new issues like proliferation, energy, and climate change permit no national or regional solution. The question is which crisis and which actions follow, right? So in the context of C-19, the protocols were followed to the letter, while the public-private partnership operation Warp Speed delivered vaccines in record time, right? We'll never forget that. And with assistance from the Department of Defense, of course, the DoD had a hand in creating the COVID vaccine, of course. You're right. It's absolutely, it's total technocracy. It's enslavement, and poisoning of the masses still. I think some things. So Trump should never be forgiven for Operation Warp Speed. With Operation Warp Speed, he essentially manufactured the C-word vaccine, which caused many people horrendous side effects and caused many people to die. He also prolonged the pandemic with lockdown and other orders. That's what Fauci, right, was propagating. And of course, Trump didn't. He launched Operation Warp Speed, right? He did that with the vaccines, right? Let's hope that RFK right now can be a wrecking ball to Big Pharma and actually change some things. But then again, changing the system is very difficult. It is easier to wreck the system. And my question is whether all those people in the Trump administration are put in place to do exactly that. Because this is the ideal vision of the globalist New World Order elites. And for that to happen, you need to have a huge crisis, basically a collapse of the old system, a collapse of the nation state, perhaps even. So we can have total globalist technocracy. Right? That is what it is all about. And of course, we know about the Young Global Leaders program, Justin Trudeau, Angela Merkel, Javier Milei, Emmanuel Macron, even Vladimir Putin were once young global leaders. I mean, according to Klaus Schwab, Vladimir Putin was. Entirely possible. Advice, right, on the UN Summit of the Future, establish a global governance body to control all life-supporting systems on the planet. Absolutely. And where do these ideas stem from? Of course, a lot of it goes back to Malthusianism, but in more recent years, we can say that institutions such as the Club of Rome have played a major part in shaping this vision of the future. So, of course, the recommendations have clear connections to Club of Rome member Paul Raskin's future scenario in the book Journey to Earthland. So this is some sort of utopian, technocratic piece of, of fiction. But I think that is the way that a lot of technocrats want the world to go. In this scenario, in the book Journey to Earthland, the great transition to planetary civilization, where the elite alliance, New Earth Order, consisting of the masters of the universe, business leader, powerful politicians, thought leaders, takes power during the Great Crisis era by declaring a planet-wide state of emergency and launching a provisional world authority. Right? So, Raskin's project, the Great Transition Initiative, was initiated and financed by the Rockefeller Foundation. Of course, they got their fingers everywhere. The United Nations Environment Program, with the Thales Institute and the Stockholm Environmental Institute as organizers. SEI was founded in 1988 by the first IPCC chairman, Brett Bolin, and the Swedish Minister of the Environment, Birgitta Dahl. Bolin was included as a reviewer of the Great Transition Initiative, and in 2003 recruited Johan Rockström to post as CEI's executive director. So this is Rockström, and he is many times appearing at the World Economic Forum to talk about technocracy, right? So yeah, this is the agenda. This is where Trump and the World Economic Forum agendas overlap. They do do want both technocracy. Excuse me, I had a work phone call, so I had to interrupt that and pause it, right? Peter Thiel also embraces the same transhumanist worldview and has made his fortune by selling surveillance technologies to the CIA, the Pentagon, and the Israeli Defense Forces, right? I think I mentioned that, right? That is essentially the main takeaway from this article right here. So that the oligarchs that are behind Trump are part of the same superstructure that wants to bring us to technocratic world order. And a sort of great reset, a great crisis that is going to reset everything. And then perhaps where globalists could come in and say that, we need to unite as one world and all of this nonsense. So essentially they're going to create a globalist total technocracy with a surveillance grid like never before. It's a bleak future, whichever way you put it. Some things are good. The cutting off funding of USAID, so on. Now, I also wanted to take a look at this article right here. I mean, these are all from different blogs, I would say, but I think they have much more truth in them than articles from the mainstream media, which are never going to talk about Palantir and Peter Thiel and his connections and Tesla, SpaceX, and the military-industrial complex. And we'll never talk about that. Elon Musk declares New World Order. Patrick Wood describes techno-populism and the appeal of Trump like a moth into the flame. Right? So holding Trump fully accountable. J.D. Vance was working for some of the world's wealthiest technocrats, of course. Vance has been bankrolled by Peter Thiel, right? Thiel is also a Trump supporter, as is Elon Musk. So Trump is different from the Uniparty in a sense, but it is perhaps more deceptive than that. So Elon Musk recently tweeted that out, saying Novus Ordus Seclorum, so New World Order in Latin, of course. It is not exactly what Christian conservatives were hoping for. So what are the Trump picks? Some of them are good, but William Barr as his Attorney General and Christopher Wray as FBI Director. So that was the first term, right? And John Bolton was the National Security Advisor. That was absolutely terrible. John Kelly as Chief of Staff. Mike Pompeo as Secretary of State. These men were unmitigated disasters. Trump actually sat down with Bill Gates right early before his first term as well, and let Gates convince him to embrace vaccines. On what planet does a Republican America First president take any advice from arguably the world's most dangerous globalist predator, Bill Gates, right? So again, he met with Bill Gates recently. We'll find out rather quickly where Trump learned from his mistakes in the last time around, or if he will lurk down the same counterproductive path. The fact that Trump has RFK speaking into his ear gives us at least some hope that he will not continue to be conned into supporting the biopharma industrial complex backed by Gates, Schwab, Larry Fink, and others. So, of course, also the exit out of the World Health Organization was a big thing. So there are some positives, but I'm not particularly hopeful. I think this is all part of a elaborate plan to essentially plunge the world one day into a manufactured crisis. I believe that Trump is the perfect wrecking ball to destroy the system. And with that, a new system will come into place, which will resemble globalist technocracy. So, typically technocrats are viewed as polar opposite to populists, and for good reason. Technocrats are often unelected and unaccountable for their actions, and they make important decisions without any connection to will of the people. Nonetheless, technocrats know how to get things done and make things work. This is the exact point where populists and technocrats find common ground, giving rise to a new term called technopopulism, or a blending of populism and technocracy. So I think it's quite accurate as well. President Trump was elected on a populist surge, but promotes technocrats to actually make things run. The military, for instance, is in full control of technocrats who prosecute armed conflicts. The Internet of Things and 5G are being prompted from the top down. Technocrat influence is likewise seen in the departments of energy, transportation, and Homeland Security, environmental protection, and education. In fact, it was data mined technocrats who manipulated both social and traditional media to make the election possible in the first place. Absolutely, I believe that is the case. In Nazi Germany, of course, we're going for a circle around the Technocracy Inc. movement. Hitler outlawed the Technocracy Inc. movement because he could tolerate no competition, but then he relied heavily upon technocrats to build his Fourth Reich. At the end of the World War II, President Truman authorized top-secret Operation Paperclip to bring 1,600 technocrat scientists and engineers from Nazi Germany to America and place them in top positions within our own government. Of special note were rocket scientists and aerospace engineers. The only valid observation here is that technocrats are always in demand by political leaders who have no reservation about using them to further political objectives. Political administrations come and go, but the underlying technocrats continue to go uninterrupted. Absolutely, I believe that to be also the case here. And I believe that it's all part of a larger agenda, and whether Trump or Harris are in power, that agenda of globalist technocracy is going to be fulfilled. In Trump's case, it might, they put the brakes on the empire, they put the brakes on World War III, and I think that's a bit of a good thing, because they knew that in which direction things were going, and if they want to actually achieve their, technocratic utopia that the futurist wants, which seems to be the one in the driver's seat right now, those are going to happen that way with Trump more than with Harris. So yeah, that's it for me. See you guys next time. It's F4GP tuning out.